This is We the Sales Engineers podcast, show 226.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramzi Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? To script or not to script? I guess that's the big question. My guest today, Brian Geery, he's been on the podcast before. I'll leave links to his previous shows in the show notes. He comes on and we talk pretty much about scripting. It's a full hour of scripting discussion, why we should do it, why we shouldn't do it, how do we do it well, how is it done horribly. So, and it's mostly centered around demos. Brian's focus is around demos, and that's what we focus on. And I think we initially have some conflicting opinions, but in the end, I think we come to a conclusion that we have conflicting terminology more than conflicting opinions, and which is interesting because I guess the basis of all agreements is understanding the terminology that we're using. And once we understood that what he's saying and what I'm saying are similar, just using different words that to us mean different things, we figured out that we agree more than we disagree. So check it out. Check out my interview with Brian, and let's just jump into the show. Good afternoon, Brian. Good to have you back. How you doing?
Ramzi, pleasure to be here. Good to see you again.
Likewise. So for those of the people who haven't listened to my earlier shows, I mean, you've been both on two shows before show 100. Could you give a brief overview of who you are and what you do and why you're important to, I guess, me, at least, at a minimum to
me? Well, thank you for that introduction alone already right there. But no, I started in software sales years ago. I worked at 3 companies. I had success moving from salesperson to sales manager to branch manager. And long story short, I learned a lot. I had great mentors, and I could teach other people. So I quit my job and became a software sales consultant, and that was well over 20 years ago. And I've spent most of my career just working with software companies, trying to figure out how to help them sell more software. But more recently, about 3-4 years ago, I decided to focus on the software demonstration, because of all the things that have helped companies with sales org structure or sales process or creating playbooks, I just found that the software demonstration itself is such a pinnacle moment in the sales process. It's the make it or break it moment. So if you deliver a persuasive and compelling software demo, then people continue with their purchasing process. You maintain velocity in your pipeline. But if you deliver an average or mediocre demo, maybe they don't continue. Worse, they go dark, or worse, they buy from a competitor or do nothing. So that demonstration just has such an impact on the overall selling motion. So recently, I've really just been focusing on working with companies improve their software demo to close ratio. If they're closing 2 out of 10, we try to get them to 4 out of 10. So a little bit of a long answer, but
No, that's good. And
yeah.
There's a longer answer to that question in show 42. That's the first episode you came on to the podcast. So if anyone wants to check it out, it's wethesalesengineers.com/show42. You get the bigger picture of what Brian is about. And I guess your origin story a little bit more in details.
That's right. That's a good story.
I thought so. I still remember it. You were on a beach somewhere when you decided to go into training, right? And to consult.
Yeah, it had to do with a club trip, and I'm not sure whether it was too many of the margaritas or too much of the hot sun, but I did decide at that moment that I could quit my job and sell what I learned.
Nice.
So my total business plan was that, and then I had a kitchen table and a phone, and
okay.
That's right.
And now you're here, so that's great. So people who want to check out show 40, wethesalesengineers.com/show42. And for today, I wanted to talk about demos specifically. Like, you reached out to me recently, and you're working on something new, which I'll let you explain in a second. Actually, why don't you explain right now? Why are we waiting? What is it that you're working on?
The Demo Wizard. It's a cool new online software tool and it enables everyone to demonstrate like your top performers. And it continually improves your demonstration because it leverages lessons learned during every demo. So with the demo wizard, yeah, I'll just stop there. That's what the tool does. And I will say what led to this podcast is to use the demo wizard, you have to first script your demo, write it out, word for word, sentence for sentence, paragraph for paragraph. You can then bulletize it, that's fine too, but it just pays to script the demo. So yeah, that's the demo wizard in a nutshell. It's a real cool online tool, and it gets everyone demonstrating like your top performers. So anyone can reach out to me to learn more about that.
Okay, and we'll leave a link in the show notes as well. The reason I wanted to talk to you, and I think the genesis of this specific podcast was scripting, because I've never scripted anything in my life, and like I've tried it and I hated it. So I guess I want to understand more or learn a little bit more why you think scripting is important in like top performing demos.
I will do that. Can I play a little clip first that I just happened to find on YouTube? That is a great, real life example of non-scripted versus scripted.
Sure, yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah. So here we go.
Words do matter, but more importantly, it's how you say it. If you sound too scripted, then you're going to come across as robotic and just following through the motions. If you just wing it, it will be likely that you'll stumble over your words and not say the right thing at the right time. I bet that was super painful for you. So let's do that again. If you actually read the script, you're going to sound robotic and come across as not really caring. However, if you just wing it, you're likely to stumble over your words and not say the right things at the right time. Wow, what a conundrum.
I just thought that was a great example because he's
he's saying the same words.
You can't tell he's reading it.
Yeah.
And everyone take a note or a screenshot of Tom Jacobs. Yeah,
I'll leave a link to his to this YouTube video in the show notes as well.
Yeah,
which is good. So basically, the first time he actually read word for word, for those listening, he had that paper in front of him and he was reading word for word. And then the second time he had the paper in front of him, we didn't see it, and he just performed. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and you could not tell he was reading a script.
Okay.
There's no way. He was just talking to you.
I would disagree that we would stumble. Like, I guess we do stumble against our own words. I don't find that as a big problem. Depends on how you do it, obviously. I find it more human. And from my perspective, when I'm reading something, I'm paying less attention to the audience. And that's, I guess, my main goal. Like, it's all about the audience. If I'm reading, I'm not looking at them. I'm not seeing their body language. I'm not seeing if they're hearing me or what, or if I should change what I'm talking about. But let's start. Like, what are your thoughts? Why should someone script it?
Think of some of the best presenters that you've ever seen. The TED Talks that get millions of views. Steve Jobs' famous product launch presentations. Do you think that those were scripted?
I think they were practiced. So yeah, at some point they were scripted, but then they were practiced.
You said the key word, practiced.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think the key is the practice component. But those famous Steve Jobs product launches and the TED Talks and stuff, you can guarantee that they all started by somebody writing down each word, each sentence, each paragraph, and then practicing and drilling and rehearsing so much that they didn't have to read it and no one would know.
Okay.
It's analogous to, in Hollywood, when actors show up on a set, they're not asked to write a script. they're given a script beforehand that's written by a screenwriter, a professional person who writes stories for a living all day, every day. And the actor's just told, go ahead and work your magic. Many of the most famous singers never wrote a song. Somebody wrote a song for them. And it's ironic to me that at software companies, we expect our SEs and AEs to be screenwriters or copywriters. They're not. So I just feel that it's incumbent on the sales leadership to give SEs and AEs a script for the demos and a bulleted version, because more tenured people will not need scripts. More tenured people want bullets, not scripts. But then you have consistent messaging. Well, what happens now? Like, what's your knowledge when an SE starts a new job and they have to learn how to demo the software? What's some of the common things that take place to get them to learn to demo?
Well, from my experience is that they are not taught how to demo. They're taught what the product does. They're taught the technology. And some companies have, like, I wouldn't say like a small portion of companies have pre-canned demos or demos that they can just use with scripts. But most companies that I've seen, every SE has to create their own flow, not even their own script, their own, what am I going to show when?
Right.
Then create their own script. So,
right.
So not only act, but think of the story, think of what's happening first, second, and third, and then how to get there.
Yeah. They're taught how the software works, and then maybe they're given some recordings of some of the top performers and say, "Hey, watch these because these guys are great."
I've actually never been given. I've never been given. I've asked for those. I've never been given that.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. I've known a number of my clients have recordings of some of what they call their best practice demos, and that's part of new hire training.
Yeah, I wish I had that, but that's a different story. Okay.
But even then, what ultimately happens, I think, in many software companies, you have your classic bell curve, and the top performers demos, they naturally tell a story about a day in the life of the stakeholder before owning your software and owning your software. They naturally synthesize the features and benefits to that particular prospect's situation. And that's a wonderful thing. And then we say, but what about our middle majorities? Our middle majority, well, they tend to teach to use. Their demos are more like end user training, which is supposed to take place after the sale. So your top performers are naturally persuading to purchase. Your middle majorities, they don't just necessarily have that natural skill. So they can't easily synthesize the features and benefits to the stakeholder. They can't easily tell a story of the day in life pre and post using your software. They can't comfortably just talk about why your software is a better option than purchasing from a competitor or remain status quo. And the solution to that, to me, is, in the case of demos, scripting the demos, give those scripts to your middle majorities, and base those scripts on your top performers. But now you can give them to your middle majority, and now you can say, hey, here's how the demo should flow. Here's the words. Make this your own. Practice it. You can change it as you see fit, as long as the core message is being delivered. And back to your point, if people need to practice, drill, and rehearse, record themselves, play it back, do some brainstorming as a team. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find something to argue with you about, but I just can't. Well,
I can give you an example, because this happened to me. people say you can't script, you'll sound robotic, or our demos are too dynamic to script. And here's why I can agree. Early in my career, I attended sales training that I thought was fantastic. So I studied the books and I practiced a little bit and took it to heart. And then post-sales training, I went on a sales call with my manager. And after the call, we're in person, so we're driving back to the office. And Steve Swantek says to me, "What happened to Brian?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I thought I was on a call with robo salesperson." So I wasn't myself. Up to that date, I sold lots of software. I had done well, and I just was me as a person. And then when I took this training to heart and tried to use that training on a live sales call, but I really hadn't truly internalized it, though I need to have practiced. I hadn't really made it my own. I sounded like robo salesperson. So trust me, I learned from that little coaching lesson.
Well, that's the thing that I see that I think I talk about it a lot. Like, I think people might be getting annoyed by me talking about it, but whenever we learn something, we never practice it. And like, sales engineering is a sport, right? You learn something, you have to practice it. And if you don't practice it, you're going to practice it live in front of customers, because it's not going to be perfect. You're going to be messing up throughout that practice. The whole point of practice is to try out different things, to internalize it, try to understand it, to see, okay, this worked for me, this didn't. Let me say something else here. And also to practice when things go bad. We were talking, like, what if the system crashed? We should have a script for that. And
Absolutely.
we should actually memorize that.
Yeah.
But we don't. Some do, but most people practice when everything's gone well. And if something crashes, they just restart.
That's right.
Not continue.
What was Vince Lombardi's one of his many famous sayings? Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
So you said that last time, and I kind of disagree with that. Like, I've heard that so many times, but I disagree with that a little bit. Like,
why?
Because practice is where you're allowed to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Practice is when you try different things to see what's going to work or not. Practice, by definition, is not perfect. Because if you were perfect, you wouldn't need to practice. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding the saying. But for me, that's where you actually get to mess up and fix it. So maybe, can you explain to me, maybe I'm misunderstanding the saying, so please go ahead and let me know what
I think it's a slight misunderstanding. If you practice in the manner that you were describing, like basically you go live on a demo and you try stuff and it works or it doesn't work and then you change it. That's not perfect practice. Perfect practice would be recording your demo in advance, playing it back with you and a team member, brainstorming, saying, hey, how about we change this to that? Or why don't we move that section up there? So now you're practicing perfectly. You're really, the practice that you described was just practice makes perfect. Like, try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then on the next demo, get better. But you just blew it with that prospect. So I think it's just a little, you can easily interpret the way he says that.
Yeah.
But the idea is, I guess, can we agree though? You got to practice your demo.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would change, the one word, if I were to change Lombardi's word, which is almost like blasphemous, intentional practice makes perfect.
You know what? I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just clears it up.
Yeah, it's just because I hate perfection. I am not a perfectionist in any way, shape, or form. If I was a perfectionist, I'd still be working on WeDSE's website, and I wouldn't have done any podcasts yet. So I feel like perfection kind of is sometimes something that's in the way, a blocker from actually doing the job. So, which is why I don't like to use it. But who am I to disagree with Vince Lombardi?
Well, there's another saying, I don't know who it gets attributed to, but let's not let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah, I've heard
So
that.
I like good is good enough. Okay, go ahead. And
Yeah.
I mean, even with my clients, because we write demo scripts for clients all the time, and then we get together and we practice them, and then we change them around because there's always some fine tuning, and then we hit a point where like, yeah, just go live. Like we all think there's ways we could probably make it better, but you know, enough is enough. Let's go live. You're good. We can make it perfect later.
So in my experience, every time someone wants to try something new, there's pushback, right? So I'm curious what the individual SEs think when someone else has scripted something for them, and now they have to kind of internalize it. What is the procedure you would say for them to actually go through that beyond just practicing?
Yeah, what we do at SalesNv, and anyone can do internally in their company, you take your top performers, those people who really do those demos that just seem to knock it out of the park every time, and record a few of their live demos. So maybe that's 3 people, and each of them records a live demo. And then who's ever taking charge of writing the script, and like it should be a person and a team, watch those and pull out the best of, like what's really working about those 3 top performance demos. And you might see things that are, it's awesome, but you know, that's a Ramzi only, like we're not going to script that because that's him as a person. But based on that, then for each feature within your software, you script it. So what happens when you have the rollout? Oh, and after you script it, you get back with those 3 top performers and have them kind of validate it, read it. Like it's a few iterations. It's you know, at least 2 meetings where people do that extra fine tuning. But now when you do roll out a script, oh, one other step. Once you have what you think this is a pretty damn good script, then go ahead and make bullets out of it.
Okay.
So now you have both, but I really think it's best to start by writing each word, writing each sentence, writing each paragraph. It's tedious, but it's one and done. You know, it's some heavy lifting, but after that, you have a 90% done demo. Anyway, now when you roll it out to the team, you let them know this is based on Mary, Joe, and Sue. And everyone knows if I could do demos like those, my pipeline velocity would look very different. Let's put it that way. So there does tend to be buy-in, like people are like, okay, you know, if it's based on demos that we know tend to cause people to continue with their purchasing process. So that breaks it down. But there's always some skepticism. You know, ideally, if you do choose to script a demo, bullet a demo, roll it out to the team, catch people doing it right. When people have success with it, just make some hoopla and celebrate success. And you'll see the naysayers will kind of get on board pretty quickly. Does that make sense? It
does. I mean, it's like anything else we talk about. If you're trying to convince someone to do something, show them what's in it for them. And in this case, what's in it for you is you're going to make more money because you're going to close more deals, basically.
Yeah. No, we recently did an analysis of Clockwork recruiting software. It's a client we've been working with for quite a while now, and they're using the demo wizard. They were early in the testing stage of the demo wizard, but they used to close 2 in 10 demos. Now they close 4 in 10. Their demo duration dropped from 90 minutes to 45 minutes, so they cut their demos in half. The number of demos to close a deal reduced, the average deal size increased, and the net result is there's a 38% increase in revenue per rep. And it's not all attributed to scripting the demo. There are other things were done, but a big portion of that was they scripted the demo.
I might ask you to state the obvious. Well, why is it a good thing to cut a demo from 90 minutes to 45 minutes? You're cutting what you're showing in half. Isn't it better? The longer, the better.
I may have to ask that back to you. To me, once you get past 45 minutes, I consider that's cruel and unusual punishment. That's just boring. You are definitely, if you are going 90 minutes, you are teaching to use, you are not persuading to purchase. People are not showing up to see a long demo. They are not showing up to be taught how to use the software. Sometimes they'll ask questions like the question pelting that takes place. Well, can you show me how to do that? No, we can't let that happen in our demos. That's training. When they show up to demo, they're there because they want to know 4 things. How does your software solve my business challenge? Why is your software a better option than remaining status quo or purchasing from a competitor? Why is your software worth it? Like, what's the business case? How do I get an ROI? And how do I get from not using your software to up and running, using it seamlessly? So I'd encourage everyone to look at their existing demos now and saying, as you read, or if you don't script it, if you just listen to it, point out the sections where you are not answering one of those 4 questions. And that's how you cut your demo from 90 minutes to 45 minutes, and people lean in with interest and curiosity from the get-go. They don't ask as many questions because you've built in the answers to all the common questions into your script. And at the end, they're ready and they're enthused to move to the next step of their purchasing process. Now you've also put how many sales minutes back in your day. Like if you do 5 demos a week and every demo takes 90 minutes, and now they only take 45, that's a lot of sales minutes you have to go work on other deals.
Yeah, you got 50% of it back.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like for me, my best demos have been, if it's just 1 or 2 features, it's like 5 minutes per feature. And if it's more than like 3 features, it's too many. Well, I don't talk about features, like solutions. Let's just put it that way. I haven't had to go over that when I did demos, because once they see the result, most of them don't want to see how we got there. And if they do, I set up another call, like, hey, let's do a one-on-one thing with you. You seem to be interested in that. I don't want to bore everybody else. So, and most of them, go ahead.
See the result. We reminded me, Peter Cohen, a friend of both of ours, who wrote great demo, really talks about start at the end.
Well, yeah.
So like for each of your feature sets, each feature you show, you want to open it up with some statement that causes people to lean in with interest and curiosity. And then to your point, I think, yeah, every feature under 5 minutes. And if you go over 5, there's a likelihood you're starting to teach to use. And remember,
or ramble.
Training takes place after the sale.
Yeah. So I learned that from Peter, from his book and from talking to Peter, like start at the end. You don't, like, if you start at the end, what are you going to go after that? You're already done, right? But I don't think of it as features anymore. I think of it as like problems. Like we talked about these 3 problems that you were talking about. And this I learned from Chris White. Like last time we chatted, you talked about this problem, this problem, this problem. Is that still right? Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Let me show you. So this is, and then we talk about how they were, and bam, this is how you're gonna be. And so yeah, like, and it's good because I get to talk to you, to them. I learned was it the harmonica? Not the harmonica, the accordion technique from you. You add features, you add parts to the demo. This is the great thing about, at least the podcast for me. I get to talk to people like you, and hopefully others learn as much as I do, because now I'm taking ideas from all of you and putting it together. So thank you for that, by the way.
Hey, thank you for all your podcasts. I love them. You're giving a great service to all people who sell software, not just sales engineers.
Well, I appreciate that. And Peter, like you, John Kerr, Peter Cohen, Chris White, they had no reason jumping on the podcast from day one, and yet everybody did. I had maybe 3 people watching. So thank you again. In terms of, go ahead.
Oh no, you go first.
I wanted to like go back to the practice part of the scripting. And are we for me, I don't like to read. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't like to read while I'm doing the demo. I want to watch people's behavior and all that. Do you recommend people practice the script until they've memorized it, or to at what point would you say that person is ready to do this demo?
Great question, and I have an example that I'll show you. So Jack is a salesperson at Clockwork Recruiting Software. Again, we've been working with them for a while, and he wanted to introduce the dashboard feature to partners. So in context, Clockwork sells software to manage the executive search process. And partners at executive search firms are really the key stakeholder. There's other stakeholders and that attend demos and help decide, but the partner is the key person. So Jack was talking about, I want a better opening for the dashboard feature to partners. So we got together in one of our team meetings and we brainstormed up a script, and he practiced it, and we thought it sounded good enough to go, and he did too. And I'll play you the introduction that he came up with. And I'll preface this by saying, we all agree he's not there yet, but we weren't going to keep practicing till he just got, we have something that's pretty good. So let me, Sharon, I'll play this. This is Jack giving a demo. It's a recording.
Okay.
This is published in Refract coaching software. So this outside this window is Refract coaching software. And these are our various coach comments. And this is just one little section where, Jack went live for the first time with his first new introduction of the dashboard to partners. And here's what it sounded like.
And just before you play it, just to be clear for the folks listening, that you are sharing your screen. If they want to see what you're sharing, they should jump on the YouTube channel and check it out. Otherwise, you can just hear it. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Thanks. Good point.
I was just speaking with one of my clients who is a partner, and she was saying something funny to me. She was like, sometimes my role is like firefighting. In order to deliver the results my clients expect, there's a lot to manage. Why isn't this candidate record up to date? Let's get this report updated before we send it out. What happened to those candidates from last year's search in a similar domain? We're behind on candidate sourcing. Has anyone followed up with candidate A or B? The list goes on and on. Clockwork brings order to that process, and you'll feel like a fighter pilot with all of the controls at your fingertips, starting with the project dashboard.
That's not bad.
So that's the intro.
That's the introduction to the feature set, to the feature of dashboard. So again, most people, I think when they show dashboard, will be like, here's the dashboard. Over here is where you collect the data on the blah, blah, blah. And this over here is a pie chart showing the da, da, da. And we're like, that's not even teaching to use. That's just torture. So
yeah, I agree with that statement.
So Jack wrote this up. We worked on it together as a team. He practiced it a bit, and we're like, give it a whirl.
I'd be very curious what it was like before he did this.
I don't know if he's willing to share that. Up, but I could tell you could imagine.
Okay. Well, yeah. So it sounded good. It sounded very good.
Yeah. If you're a partner at a search firm, are you leaning in with interest at this point?
Well, yeah, I am. And also it sounded natural. I know it wasn't, he didn't have it memorized at all.
100% reading.
Yeah, but it sounded it sounded natural, at least for my ears, and people will judge based on their own perception. But for me,
so that is word for word. And again, that's why Clockwork achieved the stats that they did.
So he even, did he practice the ums and like we must have added those. I don't know. That's very interesting.
I think he did when he went live, because I don't remember him having the ums and ahs in there when we practiced.
Okay.
So yeah, either that just happened because he's a little anxious and nervous, first time, on stage with the new script. But even at that, I know that that's even going to get a little bit better. But the point is, that's the value of scripting.
Keep going.
Yeah, so I did want to share how that comes about. Like when
Okay.
if you decide that you think scripting is worth a try, and I hope you do, those listening, that is, if an easy way to start is pick a stakeholder, preferably a key stakeholder. I like to call them stakeholders now, not buyer personas. I think stakeholder is more relevant. But whatever you want to call them, the key titles that you sell to, the ultimate decision makers. And then just pick one business challenge that your software solves for that stakeholder. Just one. I mean, you probably solve more than 3. Ideally, all you have to demonstrate is up to 3. But for the sake of this exercise, pick a business challenge. And then assign a scribe or someone, or record your session if but this is ideally you want to brainstorm with at least another person, and then just have a conversation. What's the stakeholder's day in the life like when they don't have this feature, when they don't have our software, just this feature in particular that solves this business challenge? Like what's that business challenge like? They get, where are they going? Oh, this is frustrating, this takes too much time. And then have another conversation about what's their day in the life like when they have that feature, when that problem is solved with your software. And now you just have to kind of analyze what you guys talked about. And that's where a scribe comes in. Someone can take the key points that you came up with. Next step is, what features are we going to show to solve this problem? So again, it all starts with what's the stakeholder's problem that your software solves. And then of all the feature sets we could show, what feature set or sets should we show? And then create your introductory sentence, which is what you just heard Jack deliver. And then talk about what are the fewest number of screens that you can show, and the fewest number of drop downs that you need to drop down, the least amount of mouse movement. All of this is also in Peter Cohen's book. And then just start putting all that together. So like if we played the rest of Jack's, and I'm not going to do that now, but you would see not a lot of screen flashing, not a lot of screens, some very deliberate mouse movement, quite a fair number of complete total pauses, because he's moving something on the screen and he's letting people absorb what's happening. And stop there. So that's just, again, one buyer persona, one business challenge they have, talk about your day in the life with, without, and then an introductory sentence, and then what are you going to show? And then finally, you start writing like, okay, what am I going to say?
Can I add something here? And let me know what you think, because it might be different than what you think. What I like to do is actually go through every single thing, like the most amount of mouse clicks, the most amount of screens, and talk through all of it, record it. And then there's software called the Script, where you can load your video and it will transcribe whatever you said, and then watch it. Every second you're bored, that you know that you need to cut that part out. Like that's how I get to the least amount of screens and least amount of movements. If I'm going dizzy from my own mouse, and I can tell like my customers are go dizzy, and that's how I actually script it, because I already said everything, and then I take pieces of it and say like, oh, this was good, this was bad, remove that. I don't need to show the screen. I can show that screen and keep that. And that's how I've built my demos in the past.
I think that's a great way as well. You know, whatever style works for you, but that is a great way. And I think it's almost more fun because you, like you said, if I'm yawning.
The thing is, we kind of, when we're building the demo, like for me, if I want to build a demo, I want to play around with the software for a bit based on the information that the customer gave. Like, all right, so I have this information, I'm gonna play. All right, well, this is interesting result that I just got. All right, cool, I'll show that. I know what I want to show, but every time I play, I learn something new about my own product and another problem that I could solve. So I always try to play. And once I have the script built, it's built. I don't have to do it again. But every time there's something new, because we always have new things, I get to play again. And from the playing, that's how I figure out, all right, I'm going to say this about that and this about that. I don't script it, but I repeat it like 5-6 times. And
That's funny, because what I hear you saying is, although you don't script it, by nature of the way you work through it mentally and practice delivering, and you're still scripting it in my mind.
I'm scripting it. I'm scripting
You're doing
it
it without writing it.
Yeah, I am scripting it. It's just I'm not writing it down, which is why the script is a good thing, because I'm saying the stuff, it will write it down for me, and I will notice what I'm saying, like ums and ahs, because it's script, it translates those as well. And this is fluff. I just said that 5 times. Saying all the time, like, hey, remove that part. But I practiced it over and over.
It's true. And you know what else is so great about scripting it? Again, after at first it's heavy lifting. I mean, when we work with a client to set up the demo wizard, it's often a month of just, the SalesNv team doing their thing, looping back to the client. But once you get to that, I'll call it 90% done point, then you just keep fine tuning. And then it's really easy. You start to add in customer success stories. So you can really get that real life, one of our customers is just like you, Ramzi, You add in analogies, metaphors. One of the things that we did at one of my clients was added humor moments. So we have 2 sections in the demo where we know that the stakeholder is going to chuckle, maybe even laugh.
Nice.
And we just built it in. Like, so, you have a lot more fun. You build in statistics or whatever. There's once you have the 90% part, it's to me, that's where the fun starts.
So, I love your idea, like, about this exercise. And in fact, if anybody wants to go through that exercise and send me their script and a video of them performing the script, I'd love to see it. And if they want some critique, I'm happy to critique it. If they don't want some critique, they just want to show it, I'm happy to watch it. So send it to me if people are interested. And Brian, if you're interested, I can forward that to you as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I did have a quick question though. Why shouldn't SEs, you mentioned early on, whoa, I just kicked something. SEs should not be storytellers or copywriters. First of all, what is a copywriter?
Copywriter writes all like the ads you see in magazines, or the text, the script for commercials on TV or YouTube. People who sit down and write, they write stories to help sell product.
And basically they're writing a compelling title or compelling paragraph to get people to do whatever action they want them to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say there shouldn't be storytellers? Did I mishear that? Did you say?
I said the top performers tend to be natural storytellers.
Okay.
And again, a copywriter is a storyteller. They're just telling stories. Copywriters and screenwriters are very similar. And it's people should look up the definitions. And I don't feel that we as sales leaders should expect our SEs and AEs to be copywriters and screenwriters. We should give them a script.
You said screenwriters, not storytellers. My bad. You said
okay.
Be screenwriters. And then my man's like, yeah, okay, now I get it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And then since your middle majority don't naturally do it, when you give them scripts and then a bulleted version, then they don't have to, because they just have to memorize the script, practice the script. And then they'll demonstrate like your top performers.
So here's a question for you. You already gave this one exercise. Maybe we can add something to it, maybe not. But a lot of companies don't want to don't invest in their sales engineering team for some reason. So let's say I want to create a script. How can I create a script that has a better copy and it feels more like a screen, I guess, script, screen script. I don't know what I'm talking about. I blame it on waking up early, but yeah.
No.
I hope you understand my question. If you please go ahead.
I think I do. If you're an SE and you're just trying to go out, you think this is a great idea, what we've been talking about, and you have to do it on your own. I'd start with a little lesson I gave with take a feature, take a stakeholder, take a feature, and think through all that. And then just repeat for the next feature and the next feature.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's another element too. There's conversations. So demos consist of features and conversations. Features are when you are showing the software. Conversations are, you're not showing the software, but you're talking about something important like implementation, data conversion, training and support. Maybe you're sharing a PowerPoint slide or something, or other times you're just camera on and you're talking to people about, an important topic. Those should be scripted as well. The conversations. Yeah.
Like the answers to the conversations, or
let's take implementation. Everyone wants to know, how do you go about implementing your software? So it's the same format. You'd say, how do I introduce implementation in a manner that causes people to be curious and lean in and want to know more? And then what exactly do we have to tell them? And maybe a lot of times conversations are best supported by some type of slide, 1 or 2 slides. Here's the duration of our implementation. It shows it 1 to 3 months. And then month 1, slide 2, a few bullets. So you're just making it really easy for them to understand how it works. And again, by writing each word and each sentence in each paragraph, you really think through, how do I deliver this in an impactful manner? I think it was Harlan Coben. He's a great author of novels. And I'm 90% sure it was him that I heard in an interview once when they were asking him, like, how he goes about writing. And he said something to the effect of, I want each sentence to cause the reader to want to read the next sentence.
Okay.
And that's what we do when we write demo scripts. We do that. Like, I do literally contract with screenwriters and copywriters to help us out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it's very interesting.
And one other piece, when you are doing this is you sit back, like you think you have something good, inevitably you come back the next day, you read it and I could tighten that up. And here I wrote down, I have an example here. When I was writing the demo for the demo script, at one point I said, when you're ready to go live, put the demo wizard in presentation mode and start your demo. That's 16 words. And I was thinking, this whole thing is taking too long. So I changed that to, good to go, hit presentation mode. 6 words. So again, that's why by writing the words in the sentences, and if you start thinking about doing that all the way through, it's like taking a good B movie, right? Yeah. Because everyone is already selling software. If you're listening to this podcast, you're likely at a company that's selling some software, and maybe you're closing 2 or 3 out of 10 demos, and you can run a SaaS company that way. But I call that a good B movie. By scripting it, you turn it into a blockbuster. And again, blockbusters, like, you're engaged from the get-go all the way through.
That is true. And anyone who's ever posted anything on LinkedIn or Twitter is very good at that, actually. The fact that you're limited to whatever number of characters. I've written so many things, so many posts for LinkedIn, and then I copy them and paste them on Twitter, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm out of space. And then I modify it for Twitter, and then I copy it off of Twitter, put it back on LinkedIn, and now it's a better copy of that same tweet or post. Anyways, Brian, we're coming to the end of our time. Any final words? Anything you wished I would have asked you and I didn't?
But I've been so engaged. I love talking to you. No, just I encourage everyone to, if you don't have a scripted demo, try it out. If you have one, go back to it and really think through, are you teaching to use or persuading to purchase? And then anyone can send me a recording of their live demo. Just record a live demo and I'll listen to it and I'll tell you what I think. Because the way I look at it here at SalesNv, we cannot listen or we cannot watch too many demos because we just keep getting better by watching demos.
Yeah, even the bad ones. You learn what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, that's a good point. People can go to salesnv.com, sales, the letters N and V.com. Again, the link will be in the show notes. And they can just upload a video, experience the demo coaching for free, basically.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, Brian, thanks again for coming on. I love talking to you as well. And it was too long from the last time we talked, so I'm happy we're connected.
Yeah, great to get back together. And again, congrats on your success and very much appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Well, thank you, Brian, for coming on. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you spending your time, investing your time with me. Hopefully this session was a good one for you. So I've never actually, as I mentioned on the show, like sometimes I script, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I use a software called Descript to load whatever I did and I'll have a rough script, but then I don't use it again the next time I go through the practice run. So it's interesting. What do you guys do? How do you do your demo? Do you script your demo? Do you script every word? Do you memorize every word? How do you deal with questions and interruptions if you do script it? These are all interesting topics that I would like to understand more. So hit me up. Maybe we can have that discussion on the podcast as well. So you never know. I don't know if someone is interested in being on the podcast, hit me up. I would love to have you. Would love to have a discussion with you about whatever it is that you're interested in. So let's just leave it there. Yeah, I'm not going to plug the SE hotline this time around, although technically I just did. But if you're interested, check it out. And I'll leave it there. So with that, I'll be signing off.